yourself by sharing the real-life stories of those who've experienced it firsthand.
3, 2, 1, go. Luke Bisceglia is here today. The man, the myth, the legend.
That's me.
How you doing, man?
Well, I'm
Yeah.
here,
You're here?
hanging on.
You're here? You're hanging on?
Yeah,
Here to talk?
absolutely. Yeah. Back on
it's-
the island for a little bit.
Yeah?
I'm living in St. John these days.
Okay.
So, been back for about 3 weeks. Just crashing at my parents' place. Probably stick around there for a little while, but
Cool.
Yeah.
3 weeks. Right on, man. It's just great to see you. Like, we were good pals in high school. And
I know, man.
We used to-
It's crazy. I just remember like being in, I think it was Career Futures or something like that, and
Yeah.
just playing like the drums on the desk, and like I'd come up with a little rhythm, and then you'd kind of carry it off and go somewhere else, man. Like, feels like a whole lifetime ago.
it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think that was my whole schooling, was me playing drums on the desk.
Yeah, absolutely. 6 years, right? Pretty sure it's been 6 years since
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah. Yeah, something like, yeah, and that was probably even grade 11 that we had that class. Maybe it was grade 12. I don't know.
Don't remember.
But-
I don't remember much of that class. I just remember.
I don't remember much of class in general.
Yeah, any class.
Yeah. But again, it's great to see you. So what are you up to these days? You living in St. John?
Living in St. John, yeah. Just living that uptown life. We're right in the middle of the city, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty happening place.
How's the smell?
Everyone says that. There's no smell.
No smell?
No smell.
No
If you
smell
go,
in St. John,
yeah,
apparently.
listen up, guys. If you're in the east side, maybe like a little
Okay.
bit of a smell. If you're like right next to the like refinery,
Yeah.
but if you're uptown, man, like it's easy breezy. You get the ocean right there, so you get that sea breeze.
Yeah, uptown, funk you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Funk you up, man.
Funk you up. So you just briefly told me off air
Before all this.
that you are teaching too.
Yeah. Anybody who went to high school with me would probably be completely and utterly shocked that of all the career paths I've chosen, I've become a teacher. So yeah, I teach English as a foreign language.
Okay.
I took a course online for that, and then I've been doing that for the past 2 years now, and it's pretty cool. Like, I teach mainly children between the ages of 6 and 16 from China, and I do that online. So I have my headset, I have my thing, I've got like a background of like colorful things for kid-friendly stuff. And then I teach about like half-hour lesson covering a wide variety of stuff, like, your average grammar and just kind of everyday conversation to like, I've got one student that basically the past 10 classes have been like purely like science, like getting into like the nitty-gritty of like renewable sources of energy and like the different pros and advantages and stuff. And this kid's like 10, and he's like,
Wow.
and he's funny because he's like, I think that solar energy is not the best. I think that this one. I'm like, you're 10 years old, you shouldn't have an opinion on solar energy. Like,
Yeah, I know, man.
No, but it's fun. It keeps me busy.
I don't think I could spell renewable at 10.
Yeah.
Debatable whether I could now or not, but that's awesome, man. Good for you.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of funny now because like we'll play. Do you ever play Jackbox?
No.
It's like it's a game you play on like your PlayStation or whatever, and like you hook up your phone to it, and it'll ask you like, fill in the blank in this question, write something funny in, right, and then it'll kind of people will vote for which one was the funniest, right? So there's one that's like,
Oh, yes, I did play that actually.
yeah, they're pretty fun. But one of them was like, you had like they would be like, give us a noun or give us an adjective or whatever, and it's kind of funny how many people are like, what's an adjective? I'm like, oh, it's a word that describes a noun. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like people in like their 30s. Like,
Yeah.
what's an adverb? Come on, guys.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah. All of us aren't English teachers, okay?
That's true.
All right?
And I'm not even the
So-
best English teacher. I was checking my rank. They rank you. Like, they have a whole ranking for all their teachers.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like 2,811th place. So out of 4,000. So
Yeah, still pretty good, though.
dead set average, man.
Yeah. It's in the middle.
Yeah.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of unaware of your story. I mean, I knew you back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not really too aware of your story. If you want to delve into it.
Up to speed on what's been going on with me.
Yeah.
Basically, my good friend, I shouldn't say good friend, he was my best friend. I've known him since birth. Like, there is a picture of him. He's 2 years older than me. There's a picture of him holding me 3 days out of the hospital. So, like, our moms were both friends growing up. So,
Okay.
you know, that's how we kind of met, and we just stayed friends up until, you know, recently, right? So,
Yeah.
super, super close. He, you know, we used to live on the same street in right by Superstore, off of man, it's been forever since I've been on the island. I don't remember the name of the street. Belvedere. It's called Patton Court. It's a little area and little circle. And I lived like 2 houses down for him for like 4 or 5 years growing up. And we just every day spent together, you know, sleepovers, my house, his house, always taking turns and stuff, right? And then he moved to Moncton, and you know, that didn't really stop us. We were writing letters to each other, like, yeah, we just kept being really close, like, no matter what. And 2 years ago, not exactly 2 years in December, he took his life, and that has been crazy on me. Probably my closest friend. Like, know him better than I know most people, and he knew me better than most people. And from there, it was just a weird limbo for a while. Like, you don't, like, I was kind of caught in like a, do I want to move on, as they say, or do I want to like kind of relish the time I spent with him? Do I want to kind of relive that over and over? And I was getting so many conflicting things. I had somebody, you know, offer me advice, we'll say. I don't know if I would call it advice necessarily, but 3 weeks after he passed, he was like, well, you know, time to pull up your boots and just keep pushing through, keep trucking through. I'm just like, you clearly have no idea. You know, you can't understand what it's like. And then recently, because of that, my psychologist diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress disorder on top of depression and a little bit of anxiety dashed in to the mix there. So it's been rough, but I've been here, you know, with the goal of healing and just kind of, you know, taking some time to be around family and people who have known me forever and, you know, want the best for me. So it's been good. But yeah, living with PTSD is it's a learning curve for sure.
Man, first of all, I just gotta say, I'm so sorry that happened. And
Appreciate that.
yeah, it's just really unfortunate that he came to that in his life.
Yeah. He was somebody that you never would suspect he had mental illness. And that's kind of, I've noticed a lot of, it's kind of a trend amongst people who suffer from depression, suffer from a lot of things. They become really good at hiding it.
Mm-hmm.
Really good at avoiding suspicion. You know, people will be like, "Oh, how's it going?" Big smile, you know, things are great. Or if something kind of tips them off, like, you know, I remember his name was Caleb. I remember Caleb, he texted me and he was like, you know, it was a big long text and he's just like, I've been under a lot of pressure. I've been kind of feeling suicidal. And I was making food and I just dropped everything what I was doing. And I called him immediately and I was like, hey man, like what's going on? And he's like chipper as ever, just like, what do you mean? Like, dude, you just told me that you've been feeling suicidal. Like, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, you know, I feel like everybody feels like that from time to time. I'm just exaggerating. I'm just, you know, and like, I don't remember exactly what he said, but just really like good at just kind of diverting any kind of suspicion, any kind of red flags.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what the point of this whole thing was, but yeah, just, you know, he was someone who suffered, and you wouldn't really know it to talk to him because he was super funny, super funny, conversationalist. Absolutely, that was like his favorite thing to do. We'd all be like, "Hey, let's go play a game. Let's go do this," and he's like, "We're having a great conversation. Like, why cut it short?" You know. So it was definitely a shock to a lot of people. A lot of people who loved him were very, very, very heartbroken, of course, you know.
Yeah, I think like you talk about how like that's kind of like a common thing that like people with mental illness, like you wouldn't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe for him, when he called you or when he said that to you and you called him, he was like chipper. It's like his level of coping was so high that he just like, you know, you wouldn't even think anything different.
Mm-hmm.
By like he was chipper, but he's always chipper, but he's like at this high level of coping with what's going on inside of him.
Yeah, kind of like you know, it's about as noteworthy to him as what he ate for breakfast.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I felt suicidal today. That's every day, you know.
Yeah.
And a big thing with him too was childhood trauma. A lot of stuff happened to him when he was young and impressionable. And through research and, you know, discussions with other people, have come to learn crazy things about childhood trauma. Like it just, like I don't remember the exact stats, so don't quote me, but it's something like people who experience 3 to 4 traumatic things in their childhood, and that can just be like a loved one passing away, a parent who's dependent on alcohol, emotional abuse, physical abuse, those kind of things. And like there's a few other things intermixed, things that are pretty common. If you experienced at least 3 or 4, I think it was, you are 3 times as more likely to have a heart attack, die of a heart attack, and 12 times more likely than someone who hasn't had any kind of childhood trauma to commit suicide.
Wow.
So that was definitely a big factor with him. And that's, you know, that's tough. It's tough to kind of like think about this person that you know so well and just, you know, he's suffering because of what happened to him, and there's pretty much nothing that I could do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could have said the perfect thing to him. I could have been there at exactly the right time and said the perfect thing, and then in that moment he would have been great. But who's to say in 2 months that he wouldn't have felt that way again?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly.
And that's not to say that if you feel, you know, like that's the only option, that, well, I might as well do it because I'm going to do it in the future anyway. Like, seek help. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's just important to note that you should try to help someone who's struggling any way you can, and give them as much support as you can, but ultimately get them to help, because that's how they're going to get better
Yeah.
and improve. And like kind of like you said, like even if you were there and at the perfect time and said the perfect thing, and like I went through this after Carrie died. Like I'm sure you did too. Like your mind just races of like, what if I said this? What if I did that? And it's like a prison for like a long time. Like it's like, if I just did this, if I just did that, and it's like you almost look for like the perfect scenario where you did the perfect thing. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't matter. You can't, even if, like you said, you were there, you did that, the stars aligned, that happened that day. Yeah, you can't fix what's going on.
Yeah, you can't, like, they can seek help, absolutely, and you can guide them there, but you can't, it's like that expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right?
Yeah.
You can do everything in your power, but you also have to kind of, not take on that much, like, responsibility. Not responsibility, but, like, because I felt really guilty. I'm sure that, you might be able to relate to that, but just, like you said, you're just thinking, like, what if I had said this? What if I had done this? I was reading through text messages, old text messages, and, like, he'd text me, and I kind of would, like, not respond back, and I'm like, I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I text him back?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, you can't sweat those small things, like,
you go back looking for answers.
Yeah.
You search like any little glimpse of anything, and then it gets to the point too where you just like, you miss them so much that you're just looking through the conversations because you want to talk to them. Yeah. And it's like, you kind of like, at least I did this, and like, you just look at them again and you kind of like lose yourself in it, like, follow along the conversation again. And that's ultimately, like, you also do that in your mind too. You kind of like, grief's a crazy thing, man. Because when it first happens, I mean, I'm sure we'll dive into this, but like, it's almost like a complete shock. It's a complete shock, but it's almost like I couldn't remember things. Like, my mind was blocking out memories. And then as the shock fades, the memories start to flow back. And you kind of, like you said, limboed in that space where you're just there in the memories, I guess, and with them. And
yeah, and the thing with shock too is it's like, it's so crazy, like, and it's kind of funny that you say that you had a hard time remembering things, because when it comes to that day when I got the phone call, I remember every single detail of that day.
Yeah, that day, yeah.
Yeah, I remember what I was wearing. I was eating breakfast at the time. I remember what I was eating. I was watching a video while I was eating. I remember what video, what point in the video I was at when I got the phone call, right? And I just would relive it constantly, which is a, side effect of PTSD. But when it's that level of trauma, and your body just can't even cope. It doesn't know what to do. So you kind of almost, like, for me, that day I was acting like business as usual. I was like, oh, well, I still have to go do this today. I have to go do that today. Yeah. And then, like, partway through the day, I'm like it kind of, not that it clicked, but it was just like, I think I should go home, like, to PEI. I think I should go see my family. And then on the drive home is, like, when it was really hitting me, and I was, like, just sobbing as I'm driving, and, like, pulling over to, like, just, like, ugly cry for, like, 10 minutes, right? And it's just, like, it's so funny how shock kind of just makes you act so weird. Like, why would I think that I have to go and, like, pick up groceries and, like, do these mundane things? But your brain just doesn't, like, it doesn't even, like, it doesn't compute at all.
It can't process it, right? It doesn't feel real at all. It's like, because I remember that day well too, and, like, you can't believe that, like, Like, because you feel normal. Like, you wake up that day before you find out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a normal day. You feel normal. Everybody's doing their normal thing. And then you find out this horrible news that someone you deeply care about has died. And the whole world around you just keeps going. And you don't understand how the world around you can keep going when this person has died. And your brain can't comprehend the fact that this person is, like, the fact that you'll never see this person again
Mm-hmm.
is very hard to comprehend.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow for sure. It's something it's a battle, constant battle, right? Like, there's times that I'm laying in bed and I'm just like, it's like, my Caleb, like, of all the people, my Caleb felt so low that this was the only option.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I almost, like, you feel like you're just in a bubble, and anything that happens outside of that bubble is like completely inconsequential. And my bubble is small. It's me and like my dogs and like my friends, my family, but like it's pretty small. Like, and it doesn't include work. That doesn't include paying taxes. That doesn't include this and that and the other thing, right? So I felt like if I lost my job, oh well,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
Nothing can be worse than what I'm dealing with now.
100%.
And it's like everything just feels completely irrelevant. It's like, who cares? Who even cares?
Mm-hmm.
I remember some news thing and people were arguing. It was like a petty thing, like, oh, outrage at this little thing. And I'm like, why? Why on earth do you care?
Mm-hmm.
People are struggling so bad. Why are we not dealing with that? I feel like mental health it's getting better for sure. The stigma is not as prevalent as it was a number of years ago, but it's still overlooked a lot. People focus on your physical health so much. They take so much time and energy to make sure that they're physically okay, that they're not really paying attention to mental stuff. Like, stuff like loneliness can be so damaging to you, and like, not just mentally, it manifests itself into your body.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, you get like inflammation around the heart, like you get anxiety attacks that are like, not in your head,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that I thought was always frustrating. Like, people say things like, oh, you just don't think about it. Like, it's all in your head. It's like, yeah, no duh, it's in my head. You don't talk to someone who broke their leg and say, come on, man, it's all in your leg. It's like, yeah, no duh, it's in my leg. That doesn't make it any less broken.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
No, but it's like everything is mental health. We are mental health.
mm-hmm.
If we were just our bodies, like, our bodies are nothing without this. This is the most important thing. It's how we perceive the world. It's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Our relationships with each other, our friends, our family. That's like the things that are important. And like, yeah, it's everything, man. And yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. When I've been going to my therapy with my psychologist, she's been giving me just like the first of all, she's amazing, and anybody who feels like they should see therapy should go. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
it's absolutely worth it. Every penny, if you're not covered for it and you have to pay out of pocket, it's so, for lack of a better word, therapeutic. You just catharsis. You just feel like you're unloading it. And she's given me so much amazing advice, and it's like, I feel like any chance I get, I want to just like scream it to everybody, like, do this, do that. You know, I'm not saying I'm a professional by any stretch of the imagination, but just like, you know, little things that you can do to like help with like, so like for me, like flashbacks are a big thing with post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not exactly the way that it's portrayed in movies. Like you think of like a soldier, and suddenly everything around him is, you know, the environment that he was in when the traumatic event happened, and you know, I don't know, like that you're physically there, and it might be for some people, but for me, it's not so much that. It's like a really intensely vivid memory that you can put yourself in, like emotionally, and like you can feel it in a way that you can't feel another memory. So I can look back at a really fond memory of me and my grandmother, or me and other friends and stuff, but if it's a flashback to do with Caleb, it's like I can feel exactly what I felt in that moment when I was with him. Like it's a really strange experience, and it's scary sometimes, because like some people have like hallucinations. They see things that aren't there, they hear things that aren't there, smell things that aren't there. I don't have that. I do have the smelling thing. So like there'll be times that, like actually when I was on my way to the island a few weeks ago, I was driving, and it was just late at night. I've already crossed the bridge. I'm on the island, and I just got a flashback to all the times that I would go to the bridge to pick up Caleb. He would go to the bridge and he'd take the shuttle across, and then I'd pick him up, and usually late at night, right? And it's like suddenly I can imagine the conversations we were having. I can feel that moment. I can feel like the bass booming in whatever stupid song we were listening to at the time. I could smell like his car. It had a very distinct smell. I can smell, like I would go over to this place, I'd stay there for the night, and like, you know, whatever stuff he used to clean his sheets and stuff, like had a specific smell to, you know, everyone had their house smell. Everyone's got their own smell, right?
Yeah.
So like I can smell that when I'm not even, like I'm at home, and it's really trippy. It's really scary. When that starts to happen, your body, my therapist put it this way: your brain and your body are always trying to keep in sync with each other. So if your brain is racing and it's going crazy, and it's like, you know, I'm in the process of getting a flashback, and I'm thinking, no, I don't want to be here. I don't want to think about this. This is too painful. Your brain is like going up to here. And if your body's down here, it's going to catch up. And when it catches up, that's when you get stuff like hyperventilating, you know, crying, chest pain, anxiety, like really intense. And like, you know, that's kind of what I have to deal with, right? So she said, my therapist said, what you do is you bring the brain down and the body follows. So she gave me, they're called grounding techniques. My phone's telling me to go to bed. I gotta go.
Bedtime.
Yeah, exactly.
Catch us next time on.
Yeah, exactly. Tune in next week. Yeah, grounding techniques to kind of like bring it back into reality, right? So a few that she gave me were like, you know, you start to go into a place in your mind that you don't want to be, and you start to panic. You start at 100, and you count down to 1 by increments of like a more difficult, like not 5 or 2, but you try to go by like 7 or 8. So you have to think about it. And once you get to 1, you just start over. And your brain is so focused on that it doesn't have time to think about a painful memory or to experience what it's experiencing. And it really works. Like, it sounds silly, but it works. It's helped me a lot of times. She also said to like audibly describe things that are around you. So I have a bracelet that was Caleb's. I'm not wearing it now because I left it in St. John like a moron. But it was Caleb's bracelet. He wore it every day. And his brother gave it to me, which was awesome. I was so happy to get that from him. It meant so much to me. But it's a leather bracelet, and it's got notches, and it's got a few little studs. And my therapist said, just look at it and just describe it out loud. How many notches does it have? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? Where did he get it? And just like say these things out loud. And again, like, it just kind of takes your brain away from the bad stuff and kind of makes you more relaxed and, keep it under control. And it's great. If anybody ever experiences any kind of anxiety that they find really crippling, really, really hard to get out of bed or to do anything because you're so nervous or because you're so panicky, like, it's great. It's great techniques. Absolutely.
That's awesome, man. Those sound like some, great grounding techniques. I've been reading a lot on the book there, Mindfulness. I've been reading a lot about meditation and stuff and just breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it helps me. I don't know if I have anxiety, but like just to calm down, anytime you get nervous or just practicing it regularly, like, really calms my mind down, I find.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about meditation. Like, it's just good.
I feel like it's kind of a buzzword too, where it's like meditation, like people are kind of like signaling, like, oh, I meditate, man.
Yeah.
But really, like, all it is breathing through your
Mm-hmm.
stomach and like counting your breath, and like you do that for long enough, it's just focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
It blocks everything else out. Yeah, man, I kind of to cut back to what you said, I can really relate to the stuff you said about your bubble and things not mattering outside your bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I know now it's probably I don't know, grieving's different for everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it really is like a you gain perspective from it in that way, because that's all that, like, that's what you realize, man. Like, and that's it. It's the truth, The only thing that really matters, and I think I've said this before on the podcast. You realize the only thing that matters is like the people that you love. Your friends and your family. Like your 4 or 5 close friends that you really love, and your family that you love.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that you love, and everything outside of that is just extra. Like your job, all this other shit we consider ourselves with, school, job, money. Things, material things. People get caught up in material things.
Big time.
Yeah. And it's like, if one of those people die in that bubble, doesn't, your thing isn't going to matter. Your job isn't going to matter. Your school isn't going to matter. Your whatever it is. And I think it's good perspective in that way, because it's like, it kind of makes you realize what's important in life. And as far as like everything seeming so, like you talked about, like the news,
Mm-hmm.
I really went through that too, man. I was like, I couldn't listen to like the radio, drove me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like listening to the radio, like just commercials on the radio, or like just conversations that had no meaning. I was like, you don't understand.
Yeah,
Like,
there's no substance here.
nothing. And like,
Yeah.
it's taken up, I don't know, but I really get that.
Yeah, for sure. Grief is it's a complicated and insane thing, right? Like some people, and it's not like someone's better than the other person. It's just how they're able to cope. But some people, it's a very standard, like upward slope from feeling really low to like gradual acceptance, and you're okay to look forward to the future and live your life to the best that you can without forgetting this person or this, whatever it was. But for some people, it's way more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not sure how it is with you, but for me, it's just been like, I feel like I'm taking 10 steps forward, and then some days it's just like 1,000 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm like, I was feeling so good last week. Why do I feel like crap? Why is this so hard?
Yeah, 100%. That's how I described it to people. Was like, if you were to look at it like a slope, like a mountain, if you were climbing something, or even just steps, like I would take 2 steps forward, 10 steps back,
Mm-hmm.
10 steps forward, 20 steps back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then maybe 20 more steps back. And then, but it would always, what kind of, it seemed to me, with every new low, there would be a new high.
Mm-hmm.
And with every new high, there'd be a new low.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's been 4 years. So he died 2 years ago.
Yeah, in December.
It's just starting to get to the point for me where I feel like I'm starting to live again.
Yeah.
And by live, I mean to be myself and to kind of come out the other side being a new person, because that's kind of what I think happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we haven't kept in contact for a whole lot, but, I remember when I heard about Carolyn, and I was just, I couldn't believe it. And I really felt for you. And, I'm really happy that you feel like you're coming out the other side at this point, and, feeling, okay-ish, as okay as you can, right? And it's very true that it's like, it's definitely a massive turning point in someone's life to experience something like this. And, I categorize my life as like, before and after the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard not to just want to, like, to constantly want to just be back before. You know, it's like, oh, I just wish so desperately that I was back on Patton Court, running down the street to go over to Caleb's house and to knock on the door and see if he was, wanted to go play outside and play Spider-Man or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it's definitely a journey. You have to really take it seriously and take your mental health seriously to be able to come out the other side. And you know what? It really gives you, like, as absolutely terrible and awful as the whole process is, I feel that at least it equips me with a whole new level of empathy for people.
Mm-hmm.
And not necessarily just specifically towards suicide or just specifically towards this, but just in general.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now more than ever, I like people, like, and not that I was a heartless monster before, but like, it's just, I feel more deeply now.
Mm-hmm.
When people are telling me their struggles, it's like I connect with them so much more. And it's like, you want to be able to help in any way you can. Even though you, like, for me, I'm still not, I'm still in the middle of my journey. I'm still in the middle of the process of healing, right?
Yeah.
But even still, you want to take this opportunity. Like, that's why I wanted to come on the show and just kind of talk about it and, get it out there, spread awareness, like you say. And anybody that, if even one person took 1 point away from this and was like, I like that, and like maybe never even thought about it again, I'd feel happy,
Yeah, be worth it.
Yeah, always.
No, yeah, and that's that was the motivation for doing this, and I think that's why I can, like I don't think I could have did this before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't have any experience with, or the capability, the capacity to. I wouldn't have had the capacity to do this with that not happening.
Yeah.
And you talk about empathy. I find like I really have my perspective on death changed a lot too. I don't know if you feel like that, but when you hear someone dies, I before I just was like, you just think, oh, that's terrible, like you don't know what to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, okay, now I understand what the people that are close to that person is going to feel.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I feel too like, I mean, all death is tragic, no matter what, right?
Yeah.
But with suicide, it's like a
Sorry.
no worries. It's a whole other beast.
There's another layer on it.
Yeah, it's like it's not just tragic. It's like all death is shocking, but it takes a lot longer. Because I've had friends pass away. I had a very close friend of mine pass away from cancer, and the shock is there, but it was you knew it was coming type thing, right? When it's suicide and it's kind of abrupt and out of nowhere, there's a level of shock that I think is takes a while to kind of not accept, but just make sense of, and it even still makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And I don't think, unless you've been right there where you are at the point of doing that or attempting, I don't know if you can understand.
No.
I don't know if people can, like, and that is the next layer, is because, with cancer, I guess, they got cancer, and it was like everything that, you just feel like maybe you did something like that. You with cancer, it's like they got cancer and they got sick, and and mental health, it's like it's the same thing, but it's also like this was inside of their mind that made them make that choice, and they chose to get out of this world because it was so bad.
Yeah.
They made that choice consciously, like, I need to get out. Whether, I don't know if consciously is the right word, or it's been described to me a lot as like tunnel vision, like absolute tunnel vision. Like they can't see anything else because it's so bad and overwhelming and terrifying that there's only one way out.
Yeah.
But the fact that they made that choice and you were so close to them, it takes so long to wrap your head around that part of it, I think.
Yeah. And the thing, like you said, with cancer versus mental health, is like my other friend who passed, her cancer was in her breast, and my friend Caleb, his cancer was in his mind.
Yes.
Like it's it's the exact, like, I shouldn't say it's the exact same thing, but it's the same thing. It's like this thing that just consumes you. He wrote in a journal a lot, which I've taken to doing. I write in a journal. I try to write every day, and that's also great. I recommend it to anybody. It's like just a side tangent about journaling. It's really cathartic, and it's kind of interesting because my therapist recommended to write like free flow. Like you write without stopping, and you don't, like, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be spelled correctly. It doesn't have to have proper punctuation, grammar, anything. Just everything that's in here, put it on the page, right? And you do it, and then you kind of read it back, and you see things there that you didn't even realize were rattling around in your brain. I've done it a few times, and you're just like, whoa, that's intense. And then other times you're like, when you see it, When it's in here, it's so real.
Yeah.
It's so real. Everything is fact when it's in your brain.
Yeah.
This pain, this emotion, this doubt in myself, this self-conscious tendency I have towards this aspect of my personality or my physical appearance, it's not even a debate. This is it. This is fact. When you see it on a piece of paper, like you almost like laugh. You're like, that's so silly.
Takes away all its power.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just going back to what you were saying, tunnel vision. He wrote in his journal a lot, and his mom let me read a little bits of it. And I'm not gonna, jump too deeply into that, but I'll just say that it's like, for him at least, it's not just that this is the only way out, it's that the world is better off without him or without that person. Like, nobody's life is better with him in it. If he comes out of the world, just turn that down. If he, is no longer in the picture, there's not a single person in his life that wouldn't benefit from it. That's the way he saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so crazy. Like, it's, that's just what I thought of when you're saying, like, just tunnel vision. It's it.
No, that's a common thing. I've heard people say that, and that's what Carrie said too. Everyone would be so much better off.
Yeah. And it's so hard to convince them that's not the case. Because it's, like I said, up there, it's fact. And, yeah, it's a crazy thing. The whole situation with everything to do with mental health, suicide, and depression is so layered and complex and nuanced that you really have to kind of get a second opinion. You have to talk to people. You really do. Or come on a podcast.
Yeah. So you diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and some anxiety. Do you want to talk just a little bit about like your journey with being diagnosed and how that went?
Yeah, you know what? It's a weird thing because, like, it's funny. My mom, like, I tease my mom all the time because she's so funny. But pretty much from the get-go, like, as soon as it happened, she was like, you know what? You might have PTSD. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's for people who go to war. That's for somebody that's, seen horrific things, bodies and, all that stuff. That's not me.
Yeah.
But I've come to learn that, PTSD, you can get it from just being in a car accident. You can get it from being in, like, and not to diminish any of this kind of stuff, but it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily think. Suicide or abuse or, any kind of thing can trigger it. Yeah. Any kind of trauma. So for me, it took a long time to kind of come to terms with that. I was like, well, it took 2 years. It only happened. I was only diagnosed recently. And I was just constantly like, no, like, that's not, it's not this, it's not that. I gotta keep going to the gym. I gotta keep eating clean. That's gonna do it, and then so many people were just saying to me, like, just go to the doctor and just talk to her. So I went to my family doctor, and I was just telling her, I was like, I have no motivation to do anything. I am so tired all the time. It's not that I can't get out of bed. I just don't want to. I just want to be in that bed and then, just let the day pass me by, right? And she was like, okay, well, that's not good. So don't, she's like, you've already taken the steps that I would recommend before jumping into pharmaceuticals, eating healthier, exercise, that kind of stuff.
Were you into counseling at that point, or was this?
No, it was just I'd been to counseling once, and then the girl said, how'd she put it? She was like, okay, so you definitely, you need some help, but you're not high priority. She's like, there are a lot of people who are really high risk right now, so we're going to put you on a waiting list for up to 6 months. And I was kind of like, all right, well, screw it. I'll just figure it out on my own, which is the worst thing ever. Don't ever do that.
So, just for a reference point,
Yeah.
Where did you go?
It was in St. John, and it was a free, like, kind of counseling thing. Like, your first one was free, and then from there you can kind of set up a program, determine how frequently you'd like to go or whatever. And like, I'm not trying to knock them at all. They do good work. They help a lot of people. It wasn't what I needed in that exact moment. So, I would say to anybody, if you're met with something like that, like a hurdle, to not let it just dominate you and just be like, well, I tried and I couldn't, that's it.
Yeah.
And that's hard to keep pushing and to get the help that you need. And it took a while for me too, because after that, I just kind of went back to, living my life, whatever that life was, meaningless. So from there, I went to another free counseling program, and it was funny. I was talking to her. It was like 30 minutes, I think, was the time allotted for you. And I was talking to her for about 10 minutes. And she said, she's like, I can't give you the help that you need. So she gave me a phone number to my current psychologist. I had an appointment with her, and it just felt so good to talk to somebody, because like I talk to people, but it's really nice to talk to someone who has no bias towards you,
Yeah,
or to the person that you knew, if that's the case for you.
they have no connection to you but to help you.
Yeah, and they can only, everything that they are saying to you is based purely on what you are telling them. And as long as you are open and candid and vulnerable, they can, and they're intuitive, and they can see essentially right through you. If you start to give them some BS. But yeah, the whole thing to do with like the diagnosis is like, it's a weird thing to kind of come to terms with. I'd often be like, how did my life get to this? This is like, I never thought my life would be like this. This is so not within the realm of what I imagined,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to travel the world and, embrace all these cultures and learn from it, and then, whatever, right? Meanwhile,
Still got a lot of time to do that.
It's true, and I have done some traveling, and I recommend it if you can make it work. Traveling's amazing. But yeah, it's kind of like, it's weird to think about your brain and be like, my brain is not helping me. My brain is like almost acting purposely against me, like trying its best to be a little douchebag.
Yeah. It's a funny way to put it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I was talking
douchebag upstairs in the brain compartment.
Upstairs neighbor, the worst.
Yeah. Stomping on the floors all the time.
Yeah.
2 a.m.
Yeah,
trying to sleep.
Yeah, bro, come on. That's another thing. Getting sleep is like so hard. Oh my word. And
you sleeping lately?
Yeah, you know what? I got one of those anxiety like weighted blankets. It's like 20.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 20 pounds, and like, it's just very comforting. It's very strange. I I haven't really done a whole lot of research into, why necessarily.
It's like 20 pounds or something.
Yeah, it's like, it's just like it's got little pockets. I don't. It feels like sand, but it's like it's just heavy all across, and like you sleep in it, and like it just feels like you're being hugged.
Yeah,
all
that's
the
a
time.
nice feeling.
And like, I have a dog back home, a little Boston Terrier, and he's trained as a service dog, and he does pressure therapy. So if I'm feeling anxious, even if I'm just like upset, I'm not necessarily about to have a flashback. I'm not necessarily having the worst day ever. I'm just kind of stressed out, or I'm just kind of like, ugh. I'll lay on the couch. I just tap my chest twice like that, and he hops up and he lays down on my chest and he rests his head right by my collarbone. And he's like 25 pounds or something like that. And just that weight on your chest, like it almost feels like he's just absorbing all that tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So that's kind of what the weighted blanket does too, a little bit. I was laying in it a few days ago, and then there was a flashback starting, like just the earliest little bits coming. Like I can feel my heart starting to beat faster, and I was like, uh-oh, where are we going? And I just like stopped, and I was just focusing on the blanket, just focusing on that weight, and I could just feel my heartbeat slowing and becoming more relaxed, and it was crazy. They're kind of expensive. I got it as a gift. But they're fantastic. I would absolutely recommend it to anybody. If you feel like you're not getting enough rest, that can be not the cure, but that can help for sure.
That's awesome, man. Anything that can help.
Mm-hmm.
So you're also PTSD. That spawned from this trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Was the depression also spawning from this trauma, or?
Probably. I think everybody kind of, like, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, am I depressed or am I just kind of down about something,
Yeah.
So I've dealt with that when I was a teenager, when I was in high school, when I was in middle school, but nothing I felt was overly serious. So I think probably the depression, I shouldn't say probably, I feel pretty confident that the depression came from that. Just like this person that, I would literally he was the only person I ever talked to on the phone. Who talks on the phone these days? Nobody.
Yeah.
You text, right? You're FaceTime or something.
Who talks with their mouth, dude?
Yeah, that's overrated.
Yeah.
Says the podcast host.
Unless you're doing a podcast.
Yeah. Purely text podcast.
Yeah. That'd be entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like talk to him on the phone. And it's like, now I can't talk to him.
Like speech to text or text to speech. Just do a podcast like that. Like,
Like Stephen Hawking.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Yes, sir. That is crazy. Yeah.
Anyway, about my depression. Yeah.
So did you end up getting prescribed medications?
Yep, I'm on sertraline and Wellbutrin. So sertraline is kind of I think if I remember correctly, the doctor described it as like a serotonin inhibitor.
Okay.
And then the Wellbutrin is kind of like a boost for energy levels, because like the way and I'm not sure if it's the same with everybody, the way my depression was kind of manifesting was like low energy, low mood, lack of motivation to do anything.
Yeah.
So this stuff, the sertraline is for like feeling better, and the Wellbutrin's kind of for like, okay, you feel better, like do something about it, go out and do something. And like I love cooking, and I find recently I've just been like, like I'm in the mood to make some biscuits, Get those biscuits on, bro.
I'm in the biscuits in the oven, bro.
Get some gravy.
Yes, man.
Like,
Stop it.
like
Fresh biscuits and gravy.
Yeah, make some. I made biscuits today. Yesterday we made hamburgers, and I was like, "Who buys buns? That's stupid. I'm gonna make my own buns."
Yeah.
I made my own buns, and it was great.
Probably tasted way better, man.
Yeah, and it's great. I'm really happy about that. Like it's like you're motivated to do things. Like I'm sure you can relate to this feeling of like nothing excites you anymore, or used to. For me, I'm getting better, but like, I love comic books. Love to read comic books. Love comic book movies. If you had asked me like 7 months ago, like, hey, Luke, would you like to go to a screening of the new Batman movie that nobody else has seen and it's special just for you? You get to watch the whole thing and you can watch as many times as you like. I've been like, okay, whatever. Like, I'll do it, but, that's kind of cool, I guess. But now I'm like, that would be awesome. Like, I would love to do something like that.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, which is good.
That's like the glimmers of you coming back.
Yeah. My dad said, since I've been on the island again, I was in the living room and I had my Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
I was just messing around playing a game there. I was laughing because I was talking to somebody while I was playing, and I turned it off, and my dad was just like, "Since you've been here, I've seen your eyes brighten." He's like, "I can see the progress." He's like, obviously you're not done, but you're in the right direction, and I'm so thankful that my parents have been so awesome about keeping me for this time and taking care of my groceries and all the crap that doesn't matter, right? They're just like, do whatever it takes to feel better, and they're super excited to listen to the podcast. My mom's like, you tell me as soon as it's ready, as soon as it's uploaded, you tell me. So this one's for you, Mom. Quick shout out.
Big shout out to Mom. That's awesome, man. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on, man. And yeah, you spread a lot of good wisdom, and it was a really good chat and really good catching up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish you all the best luck on your journey.
Thanks, man.
And everyone goes through these things differently, but if I could give any piece of advice, you're doing all the right things, and it's fucking horrible. But
yeah,
it will get better eventually. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
And it is a grind, but if you keep going, eventually the days get better. Yeah.
You take it one day at a time.
That's another one. Yeah.
And it's
one day at a time.
It's like today was a good day.
Yeah.
I went out, do some shopping, got myself a new jacket, and then I came and I talked to my buddy that I haven't seen in a long time. And
yeah.
It was awesome.
New jacket, new podcast. Good
day.
day.
What more do you want?
What more do you want in life, bro?
Nothing. That's it.
I love it, man. Well, we'll end it at that. Is there anything you'd like to add? Closing statements before you send it off?
Anybody that feels any kind of way about their life or anything, just know that I'll put it like this. Depression, anxiety, mental illness, it's like a little kid in your brain that's wreaking havoc, and he's not well. He's sick. And therapy and other things that are going to help you are like the needle to the kid. The kid is scared. He's hiding. He doesn't want to come out and be exposed and be vulnerable. But it's the only way to get better. So if you feel like you're struggling with anything at all, I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's scary, and you don't want to feel vulnerable. You don't want to put yourself out there. But, the reward is like so worth it. You put yourself out there to the right people to to get the help you need. You get the needle, and you're not cured, but it's just a really healthy and positive thing, and it'll only enhance your life. So that'd be my last bits of advice. I don't know, a little analogy for you, I guess.
That's a great one, man. It's beautiful.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show, man. Really appreciated it. Yeah, this has been awesome.
All right, thanks so much, Luke.